full support. Alright guys, for this video, I'll show you some of my party tricks. Alright, so what this is a cutting tape. So there's a few ways to do it. What I ended up doing is, it's just 2x4s. I made a frame. You could easily just make a rectangular frame, just a little bit smaller than a sheet of plywood, and then just put a couple cross braces in, and then what usually people will do is they'll just put it on sawhorses. So they'll just do a normal sawhorse and they'll just put this frame on top of that. What I did is I did one step further and I just added a leg system on it so that I can make my own system that I can fold in with some carriage bolts. And then what we do is I got a little non-slip tape on here, but the way this works is like people use foam on the ground to cut a sheet of plywood safely. This does it at my height, and it's a sacrificial, so I can just cut right into this 2x4 while I'm cutting through the sheets, and then it'll support the sheets when I cut it. So I'll show you. I'll put a sheet on here for our next project. So there's a sheet of plywood. What we'll do is center it on there, and now you got full support on the piece of plywood. So what we'll do, I'll show you what we're going to do with this next project. So this is our next project. So what we got is, it's actually a mudroom setup. This is a washer and dryer, some cabinets. I measured it all out. It's at my friend's house. I've been meaning to do it for a while now for him. But what I did is I measured out, we're going to build boxes around the washer and dryer. We're going to build some upper cabinets. There's going to be some shoe cabinets on the side, and then shoe cabinets underneath the washer and dryer when we raise it up. And then we got a couple tall cabinets. So what I want to do now is, obviously, first of all, I went to his house and measured all this out. So I knew exactly what sizes I had to work with. And now I have a rough idea of what size cabinets we're going to do and how big the cabinets around the washer and dryer are going to be. So I got a couple sheets of pine plywood. We're going to do the whole thing in plywood because he likes the rustic look. So what I'm going to do is I just want to cut this plywood down into more reasonable sized pieces so I can take it down to the workshop. So I'll show you, I got this neat little Kreg system for cutting plywood with the circular saw, so we're going to try that out today. So I'm going to do this project vlog style. And what I'm going to do is, we'll do this first section as how to cut down plywood, how to measure and all that stuff, and then use this new Accu-Cut system I have. And with these sheets, 2 of them I need to cut 32 inches by 54 inches out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip down my 32 inch all the way down, and that way I can use the long strip that's 16 inches as pieces for the rest of the cabinets. So I'm going to rip that first. So we're going to measure out that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my 54 inch piece out of that. So I'm going to mark 32 inches just like that, and then I'll make a mark down here. Now, this is the Accu-Cut system that Kreg makes, and the way this works is it sits on here, and you line up the edge with your marks, and then I have this system which connects to your favorite circular saw. So the way this works is, this is a track system that attaches to your saw, okay, and then it has rails on it, and what it does is it rides right on this rail. This rail has a sticky bottom to it, so what happens is when you put it on here, it holds itself in place, or at least that's what it's supposed to do, and then you ride the rail and this thing guides you a nice straight line so you can cut this piece of wood right down. So what I did is I lined up this rail with the marks I just made, and then if I cut this right over the top of this, like so, it should in reality cut straight down this line, and then I can take this and move it down and finish the cut down at the other end. So let's give it a shot. It looked like it worked pretty good actually. So what I'll do is I'll take this track and I'll flip it down to that end, and then we'll finish the cut. Alright, there you go. Looks like it did a pretty good job. Just set this side a piece for later. And we just cut that side down, and then we got our 54 inches. And there's one tooth. And then what you can do is you can, if you want to cut that a little bit bigger, you can always take it down to the table saw and trim it up if you wanted it even better. So I'm just going to replicate the same cut because I need the same exact piece for the other side of that cabinet. Sticks pretty good with this little rubber backing on it. It's actually working very nice, better than I thought. So what I'm going to do is this piece here. So I need one piece for the middle between the washer and dryer. So I think I'm going to cut this one down and I'll use that in between. The last piece I want to cut is the top of that cabinet, which is going to be 60 inches wide because the washer's 27, the dryer's 27 wide, and then with the sides on it I want the top to be flush. So we're going to cut a 60-inch piece, same depth, 32 inches, and that'll give us our top, middle, sides, and then all we got to do is build the bottom piece, which is it's one big board and then it's little cubicle cutouts underneath those, and then we'll probably do a cross piece in the middle going back for extra support for that washer and dryer sitting on there. So I'm just going to cut this one down and then we'll continue on. And that's it. So the thing to remember, cutting plywood or any sheet goods, definitely want a nice straight edge. So like this Accu-Cut system works great. And you can always cut it just a hair bigger than what you need, and then you can take it down to the table saw later and rip it just right. Or you can get it just close like this. You always want a good blade. I have a plywood blade on here, which cuts, you can see how nicely cut this line down here. With plywood and MDF, you always need a good blade because it takes a nice fine blade to cut this cleanly, otherwise you'll get little chips all along the edges. You can kind of see it down here. It kind of chipped out a little bit. It'll always do that cross cutting. It's just the act of keeping it to a minimum with the blades you're using. So what we're going to do with this is we'll put all these pieces cut to what we need to make that cabinet, and then we're going to whip out the Kreg jig and we're going to drill a bunch of holes on the inside edges, and we'll screw all these pieces together. Eventually they're all going to get stained and polyurethane when it's all said and done, and we'll show off this nice pine that we have here. Any other questions for cutting plywood? This is usually what I like to do, is cut it down out here into smaller pieces that I can work with. And it's a lot easier to carry these down in the basement and finish them up down there and sand them down there and do everything you got to do for finish work. So if you have any questions on the stand, the cutting stand, you can see how it works. You can see all the cut marks through here. I use it for routing too, so if I have to route a whole sheet. And you can see where I cut that one. It was right down the middle support there, so it actually made a nice support. Because that way the boards don't move around on you, the pieces, after you cut them. You don't get any flicking around like when you do when you're cutting it out in the open when there's nothing supporting it. You always want support for these because you'll get better cuts, and then you don't have to worry about pieces falling off the edge when you're cutting. So that's the idea of having one of these. Like I said, you could build something like this, just a couple more cross pieces in the middle, and then you could set it right on a couple sawhorses or something like that, and then you would just have a tabletop like this. This is just something I came up with. If you need to know how to do that, just shoot me a message. It's just carriage bolts coming through here, and then a couple wing nuts to hold the legs on, and it's just drilled through. You can see I did this here because when it folds up it needs space to go in here. So that's it. In the next video I'll show you how we put all this together. We'll go over actually making cabinets. This is the cutting portion of it. I figured I would do one video on just the cutting down the pieces, and then maybe we'll do one on sanding, putting the cabinets together, yada yada. I figure I'll do it in little pieces. It'll make it a little bit easier to follow. So if you like this, definitely give me a thumbs up on this video. Share it with anybody you might know who might be in the market to do something like this. I'll leave the links to the Kreg Accu-Cut. It's not a sponsored video, but that's a really nice system actually. If you have a circular saw, this bracket actually hooks up to just about any circular saw. It adjusts right to whatever your circular saw is. So that works nice. You can see I'm using the battery saw now. I didn't want to have to fumble with the cord anymore to cut down these sheets, so I ended up just getting a Ridgid saw to go with the rest of my Ridgid kit, and that's what I've been using to cut these, which actually worked really nice as well. And I have tons of batteries, so it makes sense from having to lug all the cords around. So definitely I'll leave everything in the link, and then obviously these videos will keep continuing as we do this project, so make sure you stay tuned. If you like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Facebook. I'll post pictures as I go. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.